Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to week 4 starts and sits with the Fatboyz presented by the Fantasy Holics. Um, it's week 4, guys, and we are going live. We're watching the game from Andy's room. We got the kids up with us. They're watching the game. They're learning a little more about the football. This broadcast from Andy's room is definitely some difficulties they're working out, but it's actually a great concept for the kids. They're explaining the game pretty well. I wish it wasn't Burger McFarlane explaining it to my kids, but we got to bear with what ESPN gives us, ESPN and Disney. But it's a great concept for the kids. If you do got kids and you're watching live, get them out there, get them watching Andy's room. It's actually a real good concept. Slinky Dogs, the chains, they got all the characters going on. It's looking like a pretty decent game here. We had some defensive stops to begin the game. A little blown coverage, unfortunately, for your Falcons on the first touchdown of the game. It's still early. We're 7-0 for the 7-0. Jags are up for anybody that doesn't have it on. Boom! We got our first question right there. And good morning, Colby. I'm hosting today, so bar with me a little bit on clicking on these comments. I'm still learning how to do it. Welcome, Kobe. 14-team full PPR flex. Joshua Downs or Rashid Rice. Need a boom. He's in an underdog matchup. So let's see. KC has the Jets and Indy. That one's tough, but I think I'm going to go with Rashid Rice. I'm going to go with the guy that I was really high on coming out this year, and I think he could be a boom play this week against the Jets defense. There, he could be the forgotten guy there. So I think I'm going to go with Rashid Rice.
Yeah, I'm completely opposite here. I'm going Josh Downs. There's no wide receiver one in Kansas City, so I think you see Sauce Gardner stay on one side of the field in that game, and I don't want any Kansas City wideout who may face Sauce Gardner even potentially just a quarter of the time. So I will go Josh Downs in this one.
Good morning, Jennifer. Yes, it was really cute for the kids. I also had to change it to the regular one once the kiddo ran off into the other room. They're watching it back in their room right now. Let's see. Josh, half-point PPR, start one at flex. Elijah Moore or Hollywood Brown? I'm going with Elijah Moore here. I like his matchup this week against the Ravens. I know it looks like a tough matchup on paper, but I think it's a better matchup than Hollywood Brown going against San Fran. San Fran has two things to stop there, and that's Hollywood Brown and James Conner, and that is it. So I think I'm going to go with Elijah Moore.
I'm going to go Hollywood Brown here. The reports all week were about how bad or how hard it was for Deshaun Watson to throw a football in practice. I don't know if he's been officially ruled in or out one way or the other yet, but I just don't trust him or that Browns passing game today. I'm going to go with Hollywood Brown. I do think Joshua Dobbs has looked good to this point so far in the season. They should be playing from behind and have to pass a decent amount today. I think Hollywood Brown will get some garbage time points and just end up being a little bit better than Elijah Moore this week.
Man, week 4 is, I guess, where we start butting heads on our starts and sits here. We'll get back together here shortly. Sherman asks, Gus Edwards or Pacheco? I think I'm going to go with Pacheco here. I think he's established himself in that game. I think they're going to have to run the ball a little bit more to keep the defense honest. So I think I'm going to go with Pacheco here.
Yeah, neither of these guys are ideal since they both play tough run games. I do think you know what? I think I'm going Gus Edwards. Jerick McKinnon's getting the passing work in Kansas City. And we also saw that Clyde Edwards-Helaire was the one that came in to salt the game away last week. So there's just, Gus Edwards is getting the lion's share in Baltimore. You can't really say the same for Pacheco. I think both these guys are in for rough weeks. I just think there'll be more opportunity for Gus than there will be for Pacheco.
Okay. Good morning, Amy. Amy's got a few questions here for us. We'll start with the first one. PPR, start Tua or Kirk? Man, who does Minnesota have? Carolina. Man, Kirk has been so good. It's so hard to bitch him. I don't think I am. As much as that game is with Tua and Buffalo going to be the shootout, it's the highest point total on the week. I still think I'm going to start Kirk Cousins. I like his matchup better, and he's been so good lately. It's hard to bench him. I think he's safer this week than Tua, with Tua playing the Buffalo Bills and going to Buffalo. So I think I'm going to go with Kirk in that one.
Yeah, I also go with Kirk Cousins in that one. Again, I think Tua is going to have a good season this year, but Kirk's the number one, and he has a little easier of a matchup this week.
Okay. Pick one: Adam Thielen, Javonte Williams, Addison, or Ford. This PPR. I think I go with Thielen. I think that game's going to turn into a pass-happy game. Thielen has established himself as the number one. I know Bryce Young is back this week and coming back from injury, but I still think I have to go with Thielen out of these four, I mean.
Yeah, we're getting back in a groove here, Brand. I'm going Adam Thielen. It's a revenge game for him. He's already came out and made the comment about this is going to be like his Super Bowl this year. I expect big things from him. Maybe not as big as last week, but I definitely do think he's in for a good line this week.
Before I hop into that third one real fast, I do expect a decent week out of Javonte Williams too. That's one guy I'll be talking about later on here on our start sits. For her third question, it's pick two: Javonte Williams, Palmer, or McLaurin. I am actually going with McLaurin and Williams here because I'm not 100% sure and sold that Josh Palmer will be the sole beneficiary of Mike Williams going down. I think Quentin Johnston will actually see some time. So I think this week I'm going to go with McLaurin and Williams in those two.
Yeah, I'm going Palmer and McLaurin. They did come out and say that Palmer should slot into the Mike Williams role. Kellen Moore made a comment about how good Joshua Palmer is and how he'll step right in and fill that void. So I do expect Palmer to have a good week. And the added benefit to that is Brandt just chose against him. He's a Los Angeles Chargers wide receiver. That means he's guaranteed to go off today. So I'll take the two wideouts just due to the upside.
Okay. Good morning, Kevin. Pick two: Garrett Wilson, Jacoby Myers, Tank Dell, Chris Godwin, D-Hop. It would have been Jacoby until I just saw the news that there is no Jimmy G, so I'm taking Jacoby out first. Garrett Wilson, it's Kansas City. Give me Garrett Wilson because they're going to have to pass the ball to keep up with Kansas City in my mind. And I'm going with Tank Dell. Tank Dell's established himself as one of Stroud's favorite targets, so I'm actually – oh, man, I misread that. Never mind. Let me retract my previous statement. Give me Chris Godwin and Garrett Wilson. I expect those two to have great games this week. Give me Garrett Wilson and Chris Godwin.
Yeah, I was about to tell you how wrong you were again on that one, Brant. But Garrett Wilson and Chris Godwin is 100% in line with my views. Again, a divisional matchup between Tampa Bay and New Orleans today. So I do think Godwin's in for a good game. And again, Garrett he's probably the highest drafted wide receiver on this roster. He doesn't come out of the lineup. He did it all year last year with crappy quarterback play. I don't expect that to be any different this year. It's slow. They're still in a feel out process in New York. We spent the entire offseason. Everything was done with Aaron Rodgers in mind. All the first team offense was ran with Aaron Rodgers. We're just now going into week 3 of getting practice time with Zach Wilson under center. So it's going to be a feel it out process. I do expect Garrett Wilson to get better at some point. And I'm telling you, if you sit him, it's the week he's going to go for 35 points. So I don't think Garrett Wilson comes out of my lineup, but personally, I know he doesn't come out of mine where I own him. So.
Okay. Jennifer asked, Lamar or Russ, PPR. That's gross as it sounds. I'm going with Russ. He plays the Bears, and I'm really starting a whole lot of things against the Bears, so I think I'm going to go with Russ over Lamar. Cleveland's been very good on defense, so yeah, I think I go with Russ here.
Yeah, it's Russ.
Matt asked, Amari Cooper, Cortland Sutton, or T. Higgins? Start one. Man, that's tough because I really think this is T's bounce back week. They play the Bears. Amari's almost too good to be pulling out of lineups. I think I have to go with the stud. I think I have to go with Amari Cooper here. He's almost too good to be pulling out of lineups. He's been doing great this season. He's a great route runner, so really a tough matchup doesn't affect him as much. So I think I actually go with Amari Cooper.
So are you not at all, Brent, worried about Deshaun Watson not being able to throw the football all week in practice? Because that scares me. I can't get behind anything Cleveland this week outside of Jerome Ford in my mind.
Honestly, it does scare me a little bit, but if he starts, I think that everything should be okay. Um, I don't think they would start him. It's early in the season. I don't think they would be risking it if they thought it would been or thought it would damper it. So as long as he starts, I'm okay with it. I don't think that it's going to scare me off too much of the pass catchers there. But if he does sit, then yes, obviously I am going to pivot off of all the pass catchers there.
Okay. I do still think I go T. Higgins. I know Burrow's not been able to move a little bit, but it did look like last week on Monday night they started to come up with some shorter routes instead of him, dancing in the pocket, waiting to get the ball deep. So I do think I'm rolling with T. Higgins. I think there'll be a high volume of targets for him and Jamar Chase this week. They'll just be a little bit shorter routes. But I do think I go T. Higgins here.
Okay. Good morning, Matt. How do you feel about starting Javonte Williams over Derrick Henry? I feel good about it. Derrick Henry scared me. You and me, Bo, had the conversation on what in the world is going on with Henry just last week. I'm comfortable with it this week. I think Williams is due for to get right game with against the Bears. So I actually do like Javonte Williams this week. So I'm okay with it.
Yeah, I'm absolutely not okay with it. Derrick Henry is one of the best running backs in football. I know it's been a slow start, but that Tennessee offense has looked bad. Eventually, they're going to go back to the run game and get things going on the ground. I think this is a good week for that. This is a game where they're going to want to keep the ball away from Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals. So I do think Derrick Henry is going to be in line for 20 plus targets or 20 plus carries, excuse me. And listen, Javonte Williams, I just don't trust him. The injuries gross. I know he's been back. I know there's been no like real relapses. I just don't trust him. I don't. I think that Denver is taking on the identity passing first offense. And I don't think that happens in Tennessee. So I'd rather have Derrick Henry. Again, this is another one. How comfortable am I going to be when Derrick Henry does King Henry things and goes for 50 points on my bench? I can't do that to myself.
Okay. Katie asked, pick one, PPR. Pittman, Nuka, Thielen, or trust that Debo plays? I'm actually not trusting that Debo plays. They did call up a wide receiver from the practice squad, so I think that is indication that there's a good chance he does sit. And the Rams have – where am I missing this?
They're Rams and Indy. So
yeah,
Pittman
so I expect the middle of the field. I expect Nuka to get peppered with targets. Thielen or Puka Nacua right there are my choices. I think I'm going to go with Nacua there, actually, because I expect a big game out of him.
Yeah, as much as I want to say Thielen here, because I do think Thielen has a really good game, Pittman's probably the guy right now for me. He's one of the leaders in target shares in the NFL. He's looked really good this year. I was down on Pittman coming into the season, but he's definitely looked good. I like what I'm seeing out of Anthony Richardson so far in Indy, so I do think I go Pittman here.
We also ask Tua at Buffalo or Fields versus Denver. Fields has been so gross lately. I do think that this is a chance for him to bounce back, but I have to ride with Tua right now. I'm riding the hot hand on this one. I'm not riding the cold guy and hope that he comes back this week against one of the best defenses in the NFL. So I am actually going to ride with Tua this week.
Did we just say that the team that gave up 70 points last week?
I'm sorry. I meant Tua against one of the best defenses.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, I think
what I said.
I think Justin Fields could be in for a bounce back week as well. That mobility is electric. But I just can't advocate starting him over Tua, who's been amazing this year. I think you have to wait and have Fields come out and prove it before you have him sitting in your starting lineup. And Tua's done nothing but prove it this year. So I'm starting the front runner for MVP right now and Tua, and I'll wait for Fields to show me something.
Best part of Sunday morning is hearing you guys, but we surely do appreciate that. This is one of my favorite parts of the morning too, is answering some questions here. So first one up is Higbee or Ferguson. Higbee did say he's good to go. I think I go with Ferguson. I think that New England's going to try to take away the outside pass with CeeDee Lamb and whatever wideouts are there. So I think I'm actually going to go with Ferguson going over the middle there. So I actually like Ferguson this week.
I think these guys are both going to have similar weeks, Brant. I'm okay with either Ferguson or Higbee here. Obviously, the higher upside, I think, probably belongs to Ferguson just because that offense is scoring pretty well. And I think it continues. Again, this is a big week, but both of these teams are playing tough defenses. Indy's tough against the tight end. New England's tough against everything. But Bill Belichick is smart. He's going to want to take away the best weapon in Dallas, and I think that's going to be on the outside, like you just alluded to. So Ferguson probably should be the better option out of the two, but I'm okay with either one of them.
Next one is pick 2 of the 3. It's Dell, Flowers, and Garrett Wilson, full PPR. I'm going with Dell and Wilson here. Here later on in the show, I'll explain why I'm not too trustworthy of any pass catcher really, except for one there, except for Mark Andrews there in Baltimore. So I think I'm going to go with Dell and Wilson here.
Yeah, Brand, I'll go ahead and ride your coattail on that one. I think CJ Stroud is my start of the week at quarterback position. I know they're going against a tough Pittsburgh Steelers defense, but I love everything I've seen out of Stroud so far. And both Nico Collins, or all three of Nico Collins, Robert Woods, and Tank Dell are startable in my opinion in fantasy at this point. I do expect Pittsburgh to take Nico Collins as the Houston's one, making Tank Dell pretty serviceable on the outsides. So I think Tank Dell is good, and then Garrett Wilson's fine as well. We don't need to talk about my bad quarterback play, Brand. I see you rolling your eyes watching the game. We don't need to talk about Desmond Ridder. Okay.
I was going to talk about your line, not Desmond Ridder.
Ridder looks like crap. Move on.
Who has the bigger revenge game today, Thielen or Elliott? I'm going with Thielen here, Patrick. I like Bo alluded to earlier. He came out and said this is like his Super Bowl this year, so I think he's going to come out. I think he's going to ball out. I think you're going to see Thielen inside the top 15 wide receivers again this week.
Yeah, so this is really interesting, and I don't want to spill too much right now because I do talk about both these guys later on. I think both of these guys have very good revenge games this week. Obviously, I think Thielen's is going to be slightly better just because Ramondre Stevenson's still the number one in New England. So Zeke's shouldn't see as many possibilities for revenge as Thielen should today. But yeah, I like both of these quite a bit this week.
Okay. All right, Kevin ask, who should I start at RB2, Swift or Kyren Williams? At flex, should I start the other RB over Tank Dell? I think you start both the running backs here. Swift has been red hot right now. Williams is the one and probably the only real ball carrier there in for the Rams right now. As much as I love Tank Dell, I still think I take both of these running backs to be started this week.
Yeah, I do too, Brant. I think at some point this Kyren Williams thing, I think this comes back down. He doesn't really have the speed to be an every down back in the NFL, but it's working out so far right now, so we'll see. But just because of the hot hand, I think you have to start both of these two. I think halfway through the season, I'd prefer Dell, but right now we'll go ahead and go with them, even though I think, again, both of these running backs have pretty tough defenses they're facing this week. You got Swift against the Washington Commanders and Kyren Williams against the Indianapolis Colts, who are bouncing back in a big way this year defensively. So I think both those guys could have rough days as well, but they're just both too hot to sit right now.
Okay. Jennifer says she was planning on starting Jacoby Myers in the flex, but now she's not sure. She has Raheed Shaheed and Quentin Johnston. I think you start Jacoby here. I think that he could be the check down guy. I think he could be the short route guy for that rookie. So I think Jacoby's actually my safer play. That, and as Bo alluded to earlier, if I pick against a Chargers wide receiver or pick one, you're supposed to go opposite. So use your better judgment.
One of these days you're going to get right, Brant, and we're going to have to put it on the calendar. I think Raheed Shaheed could be okay again this week. I don't know how much they'll feed Kamara the ball after coming back after his 3-game suspension. It will be really interesting to see, how that looks after this week. But I do think, like Brant said, Jacoby Myers is probably the safer play you have here. So I think you just go ahead and roll with your safe play and let that be.
Jennifer also asked, pick 2, Thielen, Addison, Ford, Lockett, or Tutu. Oh, Jennifer, you're gonna have to tell me. You're gonna have to make me say it. I'm actually going to take Lockett out of this first because I think Seattle leans on that run as good as it looked last week. Both running backs did. I think they're going to try to salt the game away with just the run. So I don't know how much passing we'll be doing. Thielen is a definite must start for me this week. I think I go Addison. He's had over 50 yards receiving, I believe, in all 3 games this year. I think he's had a touchdown in at least 2 of them. So I think I go with Addison and Thielen here. That's my 2.
Yeah, I'm going Thielen and Jerome Ford again. The news on Deshaun Watson this week does have me at least a little bit concerned in that passing ability. I think Jerome Ford gets a healthy amount of carries this week, and that should work out to some fantasy value there. And again, Thielen in a revenge game against the Vikings, he's going to be hard for me to pick against every week or every time this week.
Okay. Good morning, Paul. He needs a flex spot, PPR scoring. Judy versus the Bear, Najee versus the Texans, or Pierce versus the Steelers. Bo, are we in agreement that Pierce is the first one out for both of us here?
Yeah.
Neither one of us are fans of Pierce. Oh man, this is tough. Najee's been so gross this year to really watch. He did start getting back on track last week. I think I'd go with Judy against the Bears, honestly. The Bears can't stop anybody, so I think I like Judy this week.
Yeah. Here's my problem, Brant, and I think if I could obviously see the future and know that the Bears offense was going to be somewhat competitive today, I might be in line to start Jerry Jeudy, but how do the Bears put enough points on the board for the Broncos and Russ to have to pass a decent amount today? I just don't know if I see that. Whereas this is the Texans defense. I know it's starting to get better, but in the past, Brant, what have we always said? When you have a running back against the Texans, you do what?
You start that running back.
You do. And this is a game that I think is going to be somewhat on the lower scoring side of things. You got 2 young quarterbacks who are trying to figure it out. Like I said, I do think CJ Stroud's one of my starts of the week. But on the other side of the ball, Kenny Pickett's looked hot and cold, depends on the drive. I think you're going to have to see Pittsburgh establish that run game at some point. And what better game than against the Houston Texans to have your running back at Najee Harris get a little bit of confidence established, get a little bit of some feel to it. And I think this is a week that you see Najee actually play well. So I do go Najee just because I don't know how much Judy will be involved late in the game.
Okay. Pop says, good morning. Oh, look at that. Look how nice he is. He's willing to give you a gift, Bo. He's got a jersey in your size. Well, that must be a 4X. Not sure what you're doing with that jersey. Must have been a gift you were supposed to give me.
I have plenty of toilet paper at home. I don't need it.
So he asked Moss, Pacheco, Ford, or Williams. Pick 2. Also have Everett or Henry. We'll go with the running backs first. I'm going with Williams. And, man, I really like Pacheco this week, but I think I have to lean on Ford this week No, I'm going Williams and Pacheco. I'm not going with Ford. I think Kareem Hunt, he saw 36% of snaps last week, so I think his snap count will go up this week. So I think I'm going to go with Indy has the Rams in a 1-point spread game. Give me Moss and Williams. I'm changing my mind again. Give me Moss and Williams here. That game's going to be a lot closer than I thought. Give me Moss and Williams.
I'm going Moss and Jerome Ford again. I think the Deshaun stuff scares me. Moss looked really good last week. Man, I'd love to see what Jonathan Taylor would do in that offense the way it's looked this year, but I don't know if we'll see that. But give me Zach Moss. The Rams run defense isn't what it once was. I'll take Moss and Ford, Brant.
Also, he asked Everett or Henry for a tight end. I think I'd go with Hunter Henry. I think you take the hot hand. He's been tight end, top 3 tight end on the year. I think you go with Henry here.
Does that Dallas defense come out with a sparklet under its butt after letting the Cardinals have their way with them last week? Oh, man, I don't know how I feel about Hunter Henry and that New England Patriots offense this week. Yeah, go ahead and still give me Hunter Henry, though, over Jared Everett. Gosh, I don't love that.
Okay. Well, while we got a little downtime here, let's talk about some of our games this week. What you got? What you looking forward to this afternoon? Now that your Falcons are on early, so you don't have to just stay focused on that one game. What are you looking forward to this afternoon?
Unfortunately, we're going over to the in-laws' house as soon as the Falcons game is over. They are doing like a massive birthday shenanigans for everybody who's got an October birthday. So we're grilling out some brats, hot dogs, playing some bags, watching football. But unfortunately, I'm going to be amongst Bears fans and Broncos fans. So I'm sure the Bears versus Broncos is the game that's going to be on. But I do have NFL Sunday Ticket. I do have a smartphone. So I'm going to tune in to the Pittsburgh Steelers versus the Houston Texans, Brant. There's a lot of things in that game that I really like. I'm all over Nico Collins this year. I'm all over CJ Stroud right now. And I really, really, really want to see Najee Harris get back on track. And then, honestly, I'm starting to get on board with the George Pickens thing. So that's just the game that's got my curiosity and my interest sparked. So that's the one I intend to watch.
Okay. I'm going to be tuning into the highest scoring game of the week, or what is scheduled to be the highest scoring game of the week, and that's Miami at Buffalo. Can Miami continue that hot streak that they put up 70 points last week? The offense looks good. They got Jalen Waddle back. The Miami is just looking so good this year. Super Bowl contender good. But let's see if they can put that in against a Super Bowl contending team that we've seen right there every single year, just knocking on the door of the Super Bowl in Buffalo. Buffalo's starting to really get on track. They finally got a run game that they actually trust a little bit more, and James Cook and Latavius Murray has seen quite a bit of work back there too. But Buffalo's finally got themselves moving. It's a 3-point Vegas spread game there, 53.5 points. That game's going to be a shootout written all over it. I'm excited to watch that game.
Can we just talk for a moment about how amazing Bijan Robinson is? Like, if it's not for Bijan Robinson, this Falcons offense is the worst thing I've ever seen in my life. Oh my goodness, one-handed grab. I can't wait to see what that looks like animated in Andy's room. But Bijan Robinson, if it's not for him, I don't even know if I could stomach to watch the Falcons. So
I'll say Bijan's been great. I snagged him in our family league, and right now I think I'm sitting at 3-0 as pretty much the highest scorer in that league. So unfortunately, that was the only place I could get a piece of Bijan. But he's definitely a guy that's putting the league on notice pretty quick.
You're in too many leagues with too many Falcons fans, Brant.
That is true. Maybe I'll have to defriend a few of you, or just leave a few of those. We'll kick Jason to the curb.
But let's talk about this revenge game a little bit, Brant, because I've put a lot of stock into Thielen today. That Minnesota versus Carolina game in that noon slate is another one that I'm going to be back and forth checking out the score on, because I know Bryce Young is starting this week and not Andy Dalton, who, like you said, when we talked about this in person, Seattle has a way of making backup quarterbacks look amazing. I do still think that this is Carolina offense has gotten some stuff figured out with their play calling. It'd be really interesting to see what Bryce Young can do with the ball this week. His pass catchers are starting to figure it out. DJ Chark looks good. Thielen looks amazing. Thielen looks like a 28-year-old version of himself. I'm really intrigued by this matchup, Brant. What do you think? What do you think we'll see in that game?
Yeah, again, it's gonna be interesting. It's one of the higher scoring games of the week as put out. So I think you're going to see some points. I think you're going to see them lean on Miles Sanders a little bit as long as he plays. I know he was questionable leading into the week. The Carolina offense is definitely is starting to get on the roll. But like I told you, Seattle does have a way of making backup quarterbacks look phenomenal. I believe it was a few years ago we let your backup quarterback there in Atlanta throw for like 500 yards. But yeah, Carolina's a team that's really interesting to me watching. Young quarterback, young team still. Minus, your veteran wide receiver there, Adam Thielen. I expect him to have a huge game. And I'd like to see if Minnesota could finally get on the win column. They've been right there in every game. They've got the number one wide receiver in the league. They've got the number one fantasy quarterback in the league right now. This should be a very interesting game. I am tipping my hat towards Minnesota winning it. But yeah, it should be definitely an interesting game.
Okay, fair enough.
All right, we got some more questions rolling in here. Eric asks, A-Chain or Miles Sanders, who's questionable? They both play at the same time. If Miles Sanders goes, I'm playing Miles Sanders. A-Chain, I think, was a beneficiary of how amazing that offense looked last week. I think Mostert's still the number one back there. Wilson comes back. I think it's next week he comes back. So I think it's still Mostert's backfield. I'm going, as long as Miles Sanders plays, I think I'm going with Miles Sanders.
Yeah, I also think it's Miles Sanders here. I think Jeff Wilson Jr. coming back healthy, Raheem Mostert looking the way he does, tells me A-Chain's going to have to be extremely effective with his there's a pick six for you, with his usage, because of the fact that I don't think he's going to have the ball in his hands that awful much. So I still think I'd lean Miles Sanders, who is getting the lion's share of the work in Carolina. Obviously, if he's out, then that's a very easy pivot. But
all right, Kayla asks, she needs two. Jacoby, Tutu, DJ Moore, Tank Dell, or Higgins. I think I put Higgins in there because I expect a bounce back week for him. Man, that's tough because I definitely, as much as I love DJ Moore and everything else going into this year, I've moved him to my bench. Tutu can be a boom or bust. I think I go Tank Dell and Higgins here. I honestly do. I like Jacoby to be the check down guy, but I think Tank Dell and Higgins are the best two to start here.
So let me first say that DJ Moore is a player that I am 110% out on. Yes, he had a touchdown last week, but it was in the garbagest of garbage time. Justin Fields and that Bears offense. Man, Brent, that is just it's worse than it was last year, and last year it wasn't good. So yeah, DJ Moore is the first one out here for me. Aiden O'Connell, just because I don't know what I'm getting in him. I take Jacoby out, so then it becomes Tutu Atwell, Tank Dell, and T. Higgins for me. Higgins doesn't come out of my lineup right now, so really it's Jacoby or Tutu Atwell versus Tank Dell. Give me Tutu Atwell and T. Higgins in this one, Brant.
Okay. So, got a little more downtime here. Let's talk about these afternoon games. You got what is it? 3 of them there at the 3:00 slate. What are you looking forward to on the 3:00 slate?
Well, there's only one of them that I'm actually interested in, Brant, and that's the Raiders and the Chargers. Again, I do like Aiden O'Connell. He was like the star of the preseason for the Vegas Raiders. But we'll see. I think the Dallas and New England game, I think that could be the lowest scoring game on the week. It's not projected to be, but both those teams have pretty good defenses. I am slightly interested in the Zeke Elliott revenge game. It does have my interest a little bit. But I think if I had to like tape my eyes open and watch one of the three of these, like maybe I'll try to find like an opera or something to watch instead. But I think I do watch the Raiders and the Chargers if I'm forced to watch one of these games.
Okay. That definitely is one of the games that draws my interest. But the one that's really going to have my interest is a divisional matchup against two from Seattle's division. That's Arizona and San Fran. Arizona, the run game has looked phenomenal this year. The rest of the team has been very, very questionable. But can they do it in a divisional matchup? San Fran, I know I'm going to say this is going to sound really weird. San Fran, this might be the toughest matchup they've actually had to play because it is a divisional matchup. You see each other twice a year. Divisional games always get a little chippy. So I think that this game could turn into, I know that they have a 14-point spread on them. I understand that. But I think this game is going to be a lot closer and a lot more beat at the line of scrimmage. Let's see if we can keep the ball away from San Fran and keep ourselves in this game just so we have a chance in the end. So this game, I think, is going to be one of the more interesting games this week. I know it looks like the worst one, second worst one on the schedule, but I think this game definitely has a chance to be one of the better ones of the week.
Okay.
Cliff asked Javonte or Connor for his first to two. Man, I really want to say.
Almost another pick six in the game there.
I missed that one. I'll get back to that in just a second. I have to go with Connor. Connor's been too hot. I understand the defense is probably the toughest thing that he's faced all year, but he just did it to Dallas. I think I'd have to go with Connor. I do. I can't bench him as much as I want to. I can't.
I want to pick Connor here because I don't trust Javonte, but how do you pick a running back against the Niners defense? Give me Javonte on this one as much as I hate that coming out of my mouth. Ugh.
I do think Javonte is going to have a very good week. I know that you're not on board with that, but I'll be talking about Williams here very, very shortly on how I do feel about him. But it's so hard to take a guy like Connor out of your lineup right now. Next is Thomas or Cooper. I'm going with Cooper. Cooper, I know he plays Baltimore, and it looks like a tough matchup, but Amari Cooper's too good of a route runner, too good of a player. I think I have to go with Cooper to stay in my lineup right now.
Yeah, I'm going Thomas. Derek Carr's playing in New Orleans. And again, I don't know what I'm getting out of Deshaun Watson this week, who still really hasn't got it figured out to the Deshaun of old. So yeah, give me Michael Thomas, who's been heavily targeted by Derek Carr. I like what I'm seeing out of Michael Thomas so far.
Tony asked, Stevenson versus the Cowboys, or Brian Robinson versus Philly. I am benching Robinson anywhere I have him or I can bench him. So I am going with Stevenson here. Philly gives up 48 rushing yards total in a game. So as good as Robinson has been, I'm not doing it. I'm not putting him in my lineup, and I'm not going to tell anybody else to do it if I'm that scared to start him. So I'm going to start Stevenson.
I am starting Brian Robinson with confidence this week. Stevenson is not the guy I'm trusting, especially after the report literally just flashed across my phone that Zeke Elliott's getting starter reps in that game this afternoon. Give me Brian Robinson against the Eagles. I understand that the pass catching back should be better, but Brian Robinson's looked great all year. I know he came back down to earth a little bit last week. But again, this is a game that I expect if Riverboat Ron wants anything to do today. Another big report just came across the screen. Dorian Thompson is going to start for the Cleveland Browns. Deshaun Watson is out, Brant. But again, I'm starting
pivot on all pass catchers.
I'm starting Brian Robinson Jr. in this game.
Okay. Pivot off all pass catchers for Cleveland. Dorian, I am so excited to watch that game. This dude was so exciting to watch in UCLA. I'm going to be tuning into the Cleveland game now because I absolutely love the way this kid plays football. He can bring a new excitement to Cleveland. But pivot off the pass catchers because I'm not sure how that's going to look in his first NFL start.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I didn't get the report about Zeke starting reps. My phone's sitting over here off to the side, so I didn't get that one yet. Good morning, Chris. Wide receiver 2, which would you take? George Pickens, Marquise Brown? Give me George Pickens. I'm jumping on that train. I own him in a couple leagues, and it's really hard to keep him benched. Unfortunately, I have to with the receivers that I do have in that league, but I absolutely love him moving forward this year.
Yeah, I'll take Pickens on this one. Yeah, give me Pickens.
I'm going to jump down here real fast. Yes, Cliff, Thomas over Cooper is a lock. We're both in agreement now because of that news coming out. Jump back up here. Tony asked, Burrow or Geno Smith? Give me Geno? No, give me Burrow. Man, I think these weeks are going to be very, very similar with them. Give me Burrow because you can't run on Tennessee. Tennessee doesn't really allow you to run the ball, so I think Burrow's going to have to air it out more than Seattle. I think Seattle will lean on the run game a lot. So I don't know how much exactly Geno will have to throw. So give me Burrow in this one.
Yeah, it's Burrow. Burrow's too good to be on my bench. I think he's going to get it figured out at some point. He's too good. He's too smart. Coaching staff is too good. Too many weapons. Give me Joe Burrow.
Here you go, Bo. This one's for you. Atlanta fan to Atlanta fan. When does Heineke take over for Ritter? Will Atlanta wait another week or make the change after this game?
So here's the thing is I think Heineke, especially after what I'm seeing today, Heineke gets the start at some point. But the problem is once you start Heineke, you cannot go back to Desmond Ritter. And I know that there's probably not a whole lot of reason to go to Ritter right now. But people close to Arthur Smith say a guy like Desmond Ritter is the perfect quarterback for his offense. He doesn't want somebody who's going to be methodical in the pocket. He wants somebody who grips it, rips it, first read, get the ball there quick, which obviously is working out super well in London today. I think Heineke would be better for fantasy. I'm just not sure he's better for Arthur Smith's offense, if that makes sense. I don't know how much more Desmond Ritter I can take as a Falcons fan. But yeah, I just don't think you see a quarterback change made anytime soon. Maybe after the bye week, which is obviously still a decent ways away for the Falcons, but that's when I think you might see that change happen potentially. I think they'll stick with Ritter until the bye week.
Okay. I love Heineke, so I'm not going to chime in on that. I have not watched your guys' games all that close, so I'm not chiming too much into that.
Yeah, it's there's not really a whole lot worth watching, Brant, to be honest with you. But
scrolling through my fantasy real fast now that news has come out about Deshaun Watson. Sorry, guys. Let's talk about the Sunday night game, KC versus the Jets real fast. Let's talk about that. What do you think about that game there? It's 41.5 point over under and 8.5 points for Kansas City. What do you think about that game?
I think when the NFL schedule makers made this game, it was supposed to be a very good game. I'm not so certain it will be at this point. I think you could see the running game in New York have some decent success potentially. No Nick Bolton in the linebacking core for the Kansas City Chiefs. I think does allow for the running backs to get some lanes and get some decent chunk carries. Again, Garrett Wilson's about the only thing on New York I want to start outside of maybe Breece Hall. And then on the other side of the ball, obviously Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes, Brant, but how do you comfortably start a wide receiver? Because my gut tells me if Sauce Gardner was to shadow somebody, it would be Kadarius Toney, but if he doesn't shadow, I don't want any of these wide receivers because they're all going to get a chance. So I think for me, it's just Mahomes and help me out here. Thank you. Jerick McKinnon's the sneaky play that I would consider putting in my lineup this week for Kansas City, just because he's been that guy again in the past catching rolled. But yeah, that's it with confidence on either side of the ball.
Okay. So with the news of Taylor Swift being in the stands for Kelsey this week, I expect him to have another huge week. Not that changes with anybody in the stands; it doesn't matter. He may have a few more fans there cheering for him, though. But this game should be an actually interesting one. I actually think, and this just could be me overthinking a lot. I really think this is a trap game. I could see the Jets coming out and actually winning this game if they can keep it close near the end. So I actually think that this game is going to be really good and really close. I'm excited to watch this game on Sunday night. I think, like you said, when it was made, it was supposed to be a better matchup. I still think that this game could end up being a pretty decent matchup for Sunday Night Football.
I just want to say again, Ritter sucks. He almost threw another pick.
I thought maybe my TV was behind and he was about to throw another one. I will tell you this. I questioned benching Jacksonville's defense, but the only other one I had was Denver, and I'm sorry, they just gave up 70 points. I don't give a crap if they're playing you and me. I'm probably still not going to start them this week. So I ended up having to keep Jacksonville in. I'm kind of glad I did because I thought you guys were going to be running all over this defense, and they shown up to London to play. So let's get into it. We're right about our normal time. Let's get into the underdog picks of the week.
Are you awake, Brant?
Yeah, I'm here. I was reading all the updates. Bleacher just decided to give me all the updates that you have been getting across your phone. I just got all of them at once. So while mics were on mute, I decided to take a peek down, and the video came out a little quicker than I thought. So let's get into our picks of the week. Underdog Fantasy. Don't forget, sign up. We got a sponsorship with them. Use the code HOLICS. Double your entry. The underdog's been. I believe you had a pretty good week last week on Underdog, and I believe both of your Thursdays hit. I have been on a bit of a slide with that right now, so maybe listen to Bo a little closer. I promise I won't talk about any Chargers wide receivers here. I tried to refrain from doing any of that. But my very first one, it's going to take you all the way into Monday night. Before you see this one, I am taking Kenneth Walker higher than 64.5 rushing yards. I will take him all the way up to, I wrote these down last night. I put mine in last night. So if it did change a little bit, I will take him all the way up to about 67.5 is where I'll feel comfortable. The Giants have given up a 70-plus yard rusher in all three weeks this week. So I believe Kenneth Walker is going to be fed the ball quite a bit. I believe that he will go over that 64.5, go higher than 64.5 rushing yards this week.
So I had this one written down before the news broke because I didn't trust it. And I've said that over and over and over and over again on this show today. I have Jerome Ford higher than 13.5 rushing attempts this week in Cleveland. Now that Deshaun Watson is officially out, I do think this becomes a run fest from Cleveland. And I look for Jerome Ford to be the guy that gets that work done.
Okay. My next one is Mark Andrews higher than 4 receptions. That Cleveland pass rush has been so good this year. I think they're going to get to Lamar quite a bit, and he's going to have to throw them dump downs over the middle. And the first person he always looks for when he's in distress is the first person he really looks for is himself to run. The second person he looks for is Mark Andrews. I expect him to be targeted and peppered a lot this week, so I expect him to go higher than 4 receptions this week.
I've got James Cook higher than 18.5 receiving yards. Again, in a very high scoring contest, a divisional matchup between the Miami Dolphins and the Buffalo Bills. I look for more of the same from James Cook. He's been the guy in the backfield in Buffalo. I don't see any reason for that to slow down this week, Brant.
Okay. All right. Pulling this up real fast. So my next one is Waddle higher than 16.5 receiving yards. This game is the highest point total on the week. I I know Waddle's coming off of a concussion. I expect the game plan to be to slow down the run and to slow down Tyreek. So I think Waddle will be the one to beneficiary of this. So I'm taking him higher than 60 and a half receiving yards. He has gone over it in both weeks this year. And this is a guy that, once again, we've seen it with all that offense. One catch, he can take it to the house. So I expect this to go well higher than I am very comfortable with taking this all the way up to 65 to 70 if it has changed. I expect Waddle to break out and have a huge week this week.
I've got Alexander Madison higher than 15 and a half receiving yards, Brant. I just think that there's the Cam Akers news lit a fire under Madison last week. I called it here on the live last week that Alexander Madison was going to have a good game last week. He did. He's playing a Carolina Panthers defense that doesn't necessarily scare me away from starting a running back. Give me Alexander Madison to go higher than 15 and a half receiving yards.
Okay. Now, I'm going to talk about one guy that I really, really like this week, and I said I'd talk about him later, and that's Javonte Williams, higher than 53 and a half rush yards. I'm taking that all the way up to 60. His reps have gone up each week this year. The Bears are giving up an average of 121.7 rush yards per game this year. I expect Javonte Williams to get back on track this week. I expect to be the number one ball carrier. I extremely like him this week.
Adam Thielen higher than 16 yards after the catch, Brant. Definitely a little weird one because Adam Thielen's not necessarily a guy you think of to get yak yards, but he is such a crafty route runner. He shakes guys off of the routes. He catches the ball, gets 3-4 yards after the catch each go. This is one that if he has 5 or 6 catches, I think he gets to this no problem, Brant.
Yeah, absolutely. So this one here, we're going to butt heads on. We've already butt heads on this one once, and I am taking Brian Robinson lower than 54 and a half rush yards. Philly only gives up 48.3 rush yards in total. So I believe that Brian Robinson will be held in check this week with his rushing. He could have the PPR upside, but I think his rushing will be held in check this week against that Philly front line.
All right. My last one, Brant, is my quarterback play of the week. I've got CJ Stroud to go higher than 237 and a half pass yards. I know this is the Pittsburgh Steelers defense, but I love what I'm seeing out of this young man so far. I expect him to have a huge game this week, and I expect him to fully cement himself as the best quarterback in this class moving forward. CJ Stroud higher than 237 and a half passing yards.
All right. Cliff has a couple questions for us. You and me actually talked about this one a little bit prior to the show. Don't get me wrong, a TD today, but what the hell is going on with Ridley and his usage? I believe you alluded to it. Do you think that AJ Terrell is shadowing him today?
Yeah.
So I mean, when you have the best corner shadowing you, normally it goes to the number 2 target today, and AJ Terrell's no slouch.
And Desmond Ridder is not targeting Calvin Ridley that much. He's targeting defensive backs from Jacksonville, so those guys are going to have high receptions, high receiving yards, and high touchdowns. Not Calvin Ridley or Christian Kirk, because Trevor Lawrence isn't the best Jacksonville quarterback this week. It's Desmond Ridder, so that's part of what is going on with Calvin Ridley. Travis Etienne's going to have 150 yards rushing in the second half because they don't have to throw the ball. Desmond Ridder does it for him.
Okay. Sorry, beating a child right now. I'm not really beating a child. Somehow she decided she wants to connect her phone to my TV while football's on, so I'm not a happy camper right now. But he also has a question. Would you start Javonte over Thomas in the flex?
No,
I'm not starting him either. I think I'll go with Thomas. Like I said, I expect a big week out of Williams, but I'm still not 100% trustworthy of it. So I think I will stick with Thomas, especially with Carr starting. So let's talk about our touchdown props of the week that we like this week. As we saw, we've already seen 2 touchdowns this week already. We won't talk about who they were and how they came about. But who do you have to go for a TD this week?
we've seen a lot more than two. There was a Thursday night football game that's already started this week and happened, Brant. Let's not forget that. But
On
I think
Sunday, I apologize.
Zeke Elliott is the guy I have for an anytime touchdown. And again, I'm a fortune teller, Brant. I had this written down. I had this put in my plays prior to the news coming out that he's getting starter reps today for New England. I have Zeke Elliott as an anytime touchdown scorer. It's a revenge game. He's been getting a decent amount of touches, especially in the goal line. I think Zeke Elliott finds pay dirt today.
Okay. Mine is the guy that I'm riding on his coattails. Like I said, I'm not 100% sure I'm comfortable putting him in my lineups, but I'm going with Javonte Williams finds the end zone for the Denver Broncos this week. I do think that he will find the end zone. We saw how terrible that rush defense is last week, and I think that this guy could be the beneficiary of it.
Okay. Let's talk about that menu of the week, Brant. That's where we need to get. That's
man, I always forget about that menu.
There.
I forget about that menu because what's bad is this fat guy has to go to the store as soon as we're done with this. So I'm already hungry. We're going to talk about more food. But on the menu for me this week is little appetizers again, but we're going to switch it up a little bit from week one. We're going to do some meatballs and weenies. We're going to do some queso dip. We're going to do some mozzie sticks. We're going to get some potato skins out. So it should be a good little appetizers for the day. Just spread it out. Since I got to go to the store, there might be some chicken wings in store for me too, because man, those always sound good. So that's kind of where I'm at with this week. Gonna throw back a few cold ones. I think this week, last week I was a good boy and stayed off of them, knowing that I had to work in the morning. This week I don't think I will be.
All right. Yeah, like I said, we're going over to the in-laws' house, so we're gonna do some brats and hot dogs, and everybody else is bringing dishes to pass. So that's obviously of some interest here, but when we get home, I think we're kind of going to follow the same route. We're going to do the appetizer stuff this evening. But maybe who knows? I might eat enough hot dogs to drown out my sorrow of this putrid Falcons game. We'll see. Maybe I'll eat some fish and chips, some London inspired meals. I don't know. Do something here to get my mind right.
Fish and chips sounds good. Oh man, I may have to pull that on my menu in a couple weeks when nobody's here because nobody else likes fish in this household. But different story for a different time. So guys, we got a good slate ahead of us this week. It's good week of football. There's still a whole other half left. Don't think you're down and out yet. The Falcons can always turn this around and make this a little bit better of a game. I'm holding hope for you, bud. All right, look. Seattle's given me heart attacks over the last 3 years in 1-point games where we shouldn't be in. So I'm hoping maybe you can feel my pain and your team will get you back into a 1-point game. And you can feel a little bit of the high blood pressure and the heart attack of being a real fat guy for once on with everything making you all dizzy.
You might want to go back and look and see whose teams lost more one-score possessions in the last 3 years, Brant, because it ain't you.
Well, I didn't say we lose them. I just say we're in one.
Don't tell me about heart attacks. Don't tell me about heart attack. You want to talk about Todd Gurley falling into the end zone against Detroit 2 years ago? Because I remember.
Stevenson or Mike Thomas, 1-point PPR.
Mike Thomas, right? With the news of Zeke getting the carries in Dallas or against Dallas, Stevenson does slide to my bench this week just because if Stevenson's not getting the volume, I don't know what I have there. And again, Mike Thomas has been hyper targeted by Carr in the first half, so I'm going Michael Thomas.
Yep, I'm in the same boat as you there. I think he should get the majority of some of the targets there. I know Olave is still the one, but I think Thomas will get a lot more. John also asked Palmer or Sutton in 1-point PPR. I'm going with Sutton on this one just because I'm not sure I trust which one it's going to be. So, and I'm not allowed to talk about Chargers wideout. So I'm going to go with Sutton here.
Yeah, I do think Palmer could be in for a good game, but I think Sutton's in for a better. So go ahead and give me Courtland Sutton out of these two, Brant.
Okay. Pretty good week, guys. I hope you guys are really enjoying this game that's on right now. We get football all day. This is one of the greatest days of football season. Is you wake up to football, wake up to two fat guys here talking football, talking food. You got a game on, then you got some more football right after, and then more football right after. It's sun up to sundown. It's football, football, football. And I do believe we get it again next week with the Jags playing Buffalo in London again, because I believe this is the week that the Jags go back to back. So we will get to wake up with some football again next week, and maybe they'll play somewhere else in Disneyland other than Andy's room next week.
As long as it's not the Falcons, Brant, a lot of America and London will both be happier for that not being the game.
Remember, Kyle Pitts' first TD came on in London, so
yeah, well, that was with Matt Ryan under center, not Desmond Ritter. So,
well, maybe he'll still get another one here. But as always, guys, stay hungry,
stay fat, my friends.